Hey everyone, intuitive and astrologer Lisa Salvatore here to talk to you about the remainder of June with a specific emphasis on the new moon in Gemini that takes place on June 17th or 18th, depending upon where you are in the world. First things first, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and make sure that you hit the bell icon so that you are notified of new uploads. Also, feel free to find me at lisasalvatore.com. You can sign up for my newsletter to be kept aware of events and workshops. You can also find the link to book a private consultation there. And if you guys are lovers of all things spiritual, all things metaphysics, I highly suggest that you check out the Evolve Plus app. World-renowned psychic medium John Edward launched this specific TV app, Evolve Plus, and it's awesome. It is truly a community that is geared towards spiritual health and healing. There is so much valuable material on there about moving through grief, loss. There's astrology, there's numerology, there's tarot. It's just a really great space. Definitely check that out. The link is in the description box below. You'll also see a lot of my content on there, and I'm also a part of an astrology/energy podcast. You can also find me over there as well. Okay, so today is June 16th and I'm recording this video. Tomorrow, June 17th, Saturn is going to station retrograde. Now, we have a lot of the outer planets either stationing retrograde or about to station retrograde. Pluto stationed retrograde back on May 1st, and now we've got Saturn stationing tomorrow, the 17th. And then we're going to have Neptune stationing at the end of the month. And then we're going to have a Venus retrograde. Venus is an inner planet. I've linked that video below. You're definitely going to want to check that out. When the planets station retrograde, it's like a review process, a stepping back, a slowing down, taking spiritual inventory, I like to say. So we could literally feel frustrated and like we are being slowed down, both collectively speaking and of course personally speaking, and we actually are. But it is counterintuitive and it is for our growth. So the thing about Saturn stationing retrograde, okay, so think about Saturn. Saturn is a cold and distant planet in the sky. And Saturn can get a bad rap in astrology, but I happen to love Saturn. And if you've been following me for a while, or if you've worked with me, you hear me talk about him a lot. I think of Saturn as the strict parent that will not let you get off the table to play outside until you eat your vegetables. That is how Saturn operates. He does not want to deny you entirely, but he just wants to make sure that you do what needs to be done, and then you can go and have fun, and then you can go and get what you want, what you desire. Saturn is all about hard work. Saturn can also be blockages, restrictions, delays, outright denial, but it is always for our higher good. It is always for our benefit. Saturn is the planet attached to karma. Saturn is also the keeper of time. Everything takes time, and Saturn is a huge indicator, a huge lesson for us about this sentiment. We cannot rush the process when something is not right. We have to take the steps so that we can get it right. And a good way to look at Saturn while he's retrograde, which again will be from June 17th until November 4th, that all good things take time. And it is a great time to review, particularly our boundaries, our own energy, our relationships, everything. Everything is under review, your projects. And so when you try to look at it from that perspective, it doesn't feel so challenging because Saturn can definitely feel a little bit depressing. Now, Saturn traveled all the way to 7 degrees of Pisces. Saturn entered Pisces back on March 7th, okay? So if you have anything at the earlier degrees of the mutable signs, which are Gemini, Pisces, Virgo, Sagittarius, you've definitely been feeling Saturn. Now, Saturn moved all the way to 7 degrees and will station retrograde tomorrow, June 17th at 1:27 p.m. Eastern time to be exact. Now, if you've been feeling particularly frustrated the last week or so leading up to the Saturn station, just know that as the planets get ready to pivot, we feel that energy very strongly. And so all that Saturn as a planet represents spiritually for us here on the three-dimensional level, such as blockages, frustrations, delays, maybe a little sadness, a little depression, restriction, feeling like we're being controlled or others are trying to control us or society is trying to control us. That's also Saturn, okay? Saturn is a social planet. All of those things while Saturn's getting ready to station can really feel ramped up. And again, if you've got Gemini, Pisces, Virgo, Sagittarius in the earlier degrees, think 0 to 7, you're going to be feeling this that much more strongly. Just know that while Saturn is retrograde, there is a higher potential for us to be super critical of ourselves especially, and also of others. So a really good way to work with all of this energy for the remainder of 2023, not just now, actually for always, is to remember that everybody is feeling it in some capacity. Everybody is feeling it in one or more areas of their lives. We are all in this together. And the more that we can remember that, the more compassion that we can practice. Remember, Saturn's in Pisces. Pisces is all about oneness. Pisces can be boundaryless, and Saturn is all about boundaries, okay? So there is this delicate dance that's happening right now between fantasy and reality. Pisces is fantasy, Saturn is reality. We are all receiving spiritual reality slaps, kicks, and punches left and right in one or more areas of our lives, collectively speaking as well. So don't look at it as somebody is out to get you or there's a black cloud over you, just know that this too shall pass. Again, specifically if you're mutable, Pisces, Gemini, Sagittarius, Virgo, and in the earlier degrees, you're likely going to be feeling this that much more strongly. I did a video about Saturn's entrance into Pisces that you might want to check out. This will give you a lot more insight. And I will link that one below right here in the description box. Just remind yourself while Saturn is retrograde that the work that you put in will get you the reward, at least karmically speaking, spiritually speaking. And anything having to do with debts of any kind, emotional health, your close relationships, you're really going to be rethinking your priorities. You're really going to be rethinking what is significant. And so yeah, you can feel a little bit more weighed down or disorientated while Saturn's retrograde, but know that this is the energy and that this too shall pass. Now, we have a new moon in Gemini that takes place on June 17th, 9:37 p.m. Pacific time, June 18th, if you're Eastern time, 12:37 a.m. This new moon takes place at 26 degrees and 44 minutes of Gemini. This new moon is ruled by Mercury because Mercury is the ruler of Gemini. Now, the new moon is always a time of the lunar cycle. It's the very beginning of the next lunar phase, and new moons are all about bringing in the new. They're about manifestation, they're about setting intentions. They're typically a time of auspicious energy, abundant energy for us to work with. Now, this is not an eclipse, and yes, it is a new moon. So I would advise you that if you are going to work with this new moon, that you work with it cautiously and that you work with it consciously of boundaries and limitations that might be presented to you or might be in front of you. Because this new moon is in a pretty much exact square to Neptune. So what does this mean? Well, when we have a new moon, the sun and the moon are exactly conjunct one another. So the sun and the moon are both at 26 degrees and 44 minutes of Gemini. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the chart. So here we see the Gemini new moon. I have it set for New York, so it's 12:37 a.m. Eastern time on June 18th. Again, that's going to be June 17th if you're Pacific time. And then obviously check your time zone to get the accurate time for you. But we see here that the sun and the moon are at 26 degrees and 43 minutes of Gemini. And then right over here, we have Neptune at 27 degrees and 38 minutes of Pisces. So Neptune is in an almost perfect square to both the sun and moon in Gemini. And this is why I said that I would work with this energy cautiously. First of all, the sun is the outer layer, the moon is the inner layer. The sun is visible, the moon is invisible. And it's in Gemini, which is a mutable air sign. Mutable means changeable. Gemini is the sign of duality. It is a sign of two. It is a sign of options. It is also a sign of the intellect, of the mind. It's a sign of words, communication, expression. Gemini is ruled by the planet Mercury, so this is a Mercury-ruled new moon. Lots of information, communications can be coming in and out. Now, Gemini also rules over the media, social media. So again, this information does not have to necessarily be verbal. This could be through social media. But any and all communications are highlighted under this new moon. But you have to be very discerning because we are dealing with Neptune, and Neptune is very nebulous. So here's the deal. Neptune is in Pisces. Pisces is a mutable water sign. Gemini is also a mutable sign. When we're dealing with mutable energy, we're dealing with a little bit of, I don't want to call it chaotic, but it's very permeable, okay? It's very changeable. It can sometimes feel like the lines are blurred. And because we're dealing with a harsh aspect between these planets, because a square is a harsh aspect, we're dealing with a harsh aspect between Gemini and Pisces, between the sun and the moon and Neptune. Neptune can just really confuse things right now. All of the planets operate at a higher vibration and a lower vibration, and Neptune in its lower vibration can represent deceit, illusion, delusion, fantasy, betrayal, confusion. But in the higher vibration, Neptune can also be very strong creative energy, spiritual energy, very romantic, very loving, all about unconditional love. Neptune is a higher octave of Venus after all. So we can see some really beautiful energies under Neptune. But I want to be clear, because we are dealing with a harsh aspect of Neptune and Pisces to the new moon, it is more than likely that we may see more of the lower vibration of the Neptunian energy play out if we are not being conscious of everything that we are seeing, feeling, hearing, etc. Again, be very discerning. You're going to be hearing a lot of things around this new moon. You may be seeing a lot of things much more clearly because Neptune is getting ready to station at the end of the month. And Neptune is one of those planets that when Neptune stations retrograde, the fog parts. The smoke clears a bit. We see things differently. We come out of a fog, out of a slumber. Something that was obscured for us now becomes visible. That could be on the emotional level, the physical level, the spiritual level, all three. So under this new moon, you can receive some very pertinent information to help to move you forward, to help you to see something more clearly. You might not like it. It may involve gossip. It may involve deceit, but it also may not. So again, just be discerning, that's all. I'm just offering a little more caution to this new moon than normal because of this Neptune square. And also because Saturn has just stationed retrograde in Pisces. And furthering the sentiment of communications maybe going a little bit wonky or things not being clear and having to be more discerning is that Saturn, now retrograde at 7 degrees and 12 minutes of Pisces, is in a square aspect to Mercury over here at 11 degrees of Gemini. And remember, Mercury is the ruler of Gemini, so therefore Mercury is the ruler of this new moon, and Mercury is in a harsh aspect to Saturn. So again, we just need to be a little bit more mindful of all of this. This could feel like a little bit of a Mercury retrograde kind of an energy, but it's up to you how you process the information that is coming in. It is up to you how you perceive the information. It is up to you how you deliver information. The media is going to be hopping. The news hopping. We may see a lot surrounding water under this energy because we are dealing with Neptune, the god of the seas, and Neptune is in a square to the new moon, which can be like literal flooding or water damage or something going on with water. Might not be, it can be. And further adding to my feelings about Neptune and the water is that we've got Ceres right here at 29 degrees of Virgo. So Ceres is at the 29th degree, the anaretic degree, which means that Ceres energy is really ramped up. And remember, Ceres is all about crops, grains, and agriculture. Ceres is about the earth and nurturance, the way we nurture our bodies, the way we nurture soil, the earth. And Ceres is in a square to the new moon in Gemini, a harsh aspect. And then the new moon is in a square to Neptune, and then Neptune is opposite Ceres. This is a T-square configuration, which is a challenging circumstance of these planets. Now, what this speaks to me, and I am hoping that I am incorrect, but we're talking about Neptune. We're talking about the god of the sea, water, swelling. We're talking about a square to the sun and the moon, to the new moon. And then we're talking about a harsh aspect to Ceres. Now, we are more than likely going to hear something along the lines of crops being destroyed by water. Yes, maybe fire, but more than likely water. There's going to be water information that we are going to hear about. Now, is this going to be real information or misinformation? Again, we don't know. We have to read between the lines. We are dealing with Neptune. All of what I said before about this nebulous fuzziness around this new moon applies everywhere, applies to the collective energy as well. So yeah, I would think we're going to be hearing about crops being disturbed, water damage. Hopefully not, but it's here. This is how it speaks to me. We are entering the summer solstice energy, which is only a couple of days after this new moon, which is always a very powerful portal of time, a very powerful passage of time where our bodies literally feel this strong energy coming through. So make sure you are taking time for physical rest. Actually get outside in the sunlight. It will nourish you. Get to the water, that's the moon. It will also nourish you and calm you. Take good care of the physical body. Again, Neptune is very receptive as well. Neptune is also about toxins and pollutants. Those are also some of the lower frequency vibes attached to Neptune. So we just want to watch that. Now, positively speaking, Mercury is in an almost exact sextile to Venus over here in Leo. So this is a very helpful energy. This can be very creative, very sweet, very sexy, because we've also got Mars right here at 16 Leo conjunct Venus. So this is very helpful. This is strong heart energy. But again, we're dealing with Neptune, so there could be some illusion fantasy here, which can be really great, but just make sure that the fantasy matches the reality, or you may have a hard fall off that pedestal, or somebody else will in your eyes. The other important thing to mention about this new moon, because it is Mercury ruled and we have these Mercury aspects, is that our words create our reality. Our thoughts create our reality. So we have to watch the way we are speaking to ourselves and of ourselves. Again, discernment. It is actually a great new moon to use for creative work, creative projects, especially something that you've already been working on. So nothing brand new per se, but it's something that you've already been working on, because we do have this very creative and heart-centered energy with both Mars and Venus lined up in Leo, aspecting Mercury nicely. And I also have to mention that we've got Pluto over here now back in Capricorn at 29 degrees and 52 minutes of Capricorn. And Pluto is in this ongoing T-square with the nodal axis, which again, this is tension, okay? And when we're dealing with the North and South nodes, we are dealing with destiny. We are dealing with both the collective destiny and our personal destiny. And Pluto is all about power, control, transformation, transcendence. So we could have things coming at us from outside that do seek to control us in some form or fashion. And it could have something to do with online, because we're dealing with Gemini, we're dealing with words, we're dealing with media, information. There could be a lot of censoring going on at this time, or untruths coming out. Because Pluto is all about the shadow, and Pluto's at that 29th degree, the anaretic degree. So he's really ramped up, bringing things up from the underworld, because he wants to transcend this karma once and for all before he moves into Aquarius officially in January of 2024. So we are in some really powerful times right now. And I know that this is supposed to be about the new moon, but I have to pull all of this in because it's extremely significant. Watch your words, watch your thoughts, and just be aware. And one other aspect that I found to this new moon that I really actually like, and it does give me hope, and it does give us hope, is that this new moon is in an almost exact conjunction to a fixed star called Wazin. And I put it in, it's right here. You can see Wazin is at 2644 of Gemini, and the new moon's at 2643, okay? Almost exact. The Arabic word for Wazin is weight, and Wazin actually sits in the constellation of Columba, which is the constellation of the dove. And the dove is representative of Noah's Ark. This is the dove that Noah sent out to find refuge in all of the deluge and all of the destruction. And it's interesting because we are talking about Neptune in Pisces, and we were talking about water, and this is a new moon conjunct Wazin. But what I liked about it is that doves are associated with purity. Doves are associated with spirit, with the Holy Spirit, with foresight, with increased intuition, and they're more of an auspicious omen. So there could be some good news to come of this, but it might take time. Again, Saturn's retrograde, keyword, time. Now, another thing is that if you've been following me for a while, or if you have not, I will pull in the Sabian symbols when I find them to be profound and connected to the lunation that we're talking about. And so this is that Gemini new moon. And as always, I read the Sabian symbols, but this one felt very powerful to me, and I just wanted to share it with all of you and share my thoughts on it, just to give you a little more prophecy into the new moon. This is the Sabian symbols by Dr. Mark Edmund Jones. Long story short, the Sabian symbols, there is one for every degree of the zodiac, okay? There's 12 signs of the zodiac, 30 degrees per sign. So do the math on that. That's how many Sabian symbols there are. We always round up with the Sabian symbols. So for example, if your ascendant is 9 degrees and 3 minutes of Gemini, let's just say, you're going to read the Sabian symbol for 10 degrees of Gemini. Now, I would recommend that you read your Sabian symbol if you wanted to read these for yourself, for the sun, the moon, and the ascendant in your birth chart. It's extremely profound. It can give you a lot of insight into previous lifetimes if you subscribe to that theory, which I obviously do. But that is how you work with the Sabian symbols. An astrologer/doctor wrote these with a clairvoyant woman who was actually wheelchair bound and blind. He came up with the Sabian symbol. She then intuited the meanings. I'm going to share with you the one for 27 degrees of Gemini, because remember the new moon's at 2643 of Gemini. Gemini 27, a gypsy coming out of the forest. This is a symbol of human enthusiasm or of self-consciousness mobilized in a freshness or naivety of self-realization and dramatized by an irresistible desire for success and recognition in an everyday world. Here are the enlarged horizons which follow from the individual's faith in his own potentialities and his willingness to draw on them prodigally and in generous cooperation with his fellows. Man thus finds the resources of all nature available for his exploitation. The key word is expenditure. When positive, the degree is self-release through a joy in the accomplishments of the moment, and when negative, complete disinclination to enter into the ordinary relationships of society. Okay, so a gypsy coming out of the forest. To me, this Sabian symbol screams Neptune. It's like coming out of the forest and seeing something much more clearly, being exposed to something that was previously hidden from you. This Sabian symbol talks about potentialities. It talks about our character. It talks about self-realization. Now, I don't know about you, but there have been a lot of reveals going on the personal level for everybody when it comes to their relationships. We are seeing things much more clearly. We are recognizing where we might have thought that someone or something was one way, and then something literally smacks us in the face and we have to face it and say, oh my gosh. To me, that screams Neptune. Where might you have been or still be glamorizing someone or something in your current reality? Where do you have someone or something on a pedestal? Where do you maybe need to be knocked off that pedestal a little bit? Just trust that under this new moon energy, as we move throughout the end of the month, something could be revealed to you that just kind of enforces this. It doesn't mean it's going to be big or bad. It just might be very revealing. So again, cautious discernment. And if you are going to work with this new moon energy, just work with it cautiously, because there is very strong potential for confusion, but also massive clarity. Does it sound confusing? That's Neptune. I hope that you have a wonderful new moon and a wonderful rest of your month. Take care. Bye.